All right, Riley, are you able to turn your camera on? We're having a few technical issues this morning with the cameras, but let's see. Great.
Okay.
Thank you, Riley. I would like to introduce everybody to Riley Johnson. Riley Johnson today will be doing our acknowledgement of country. Riley is a proud Gomeroi from Moree North in West New South Wales. Riley is currently studying Year 11 at Cardiff High School here on Awabakal land, which is in Newcastle, Lake Macquarie, New South Wales. Riley is also a colleague of mine, and she is the newest addition to the Training Services New South Wales team as the first Aboriginal school-based trainee. I cannot think of anyone more suitable to be delivering the acknowledgement of country at an event that is preparing young female future workforce leaders than Riley. I will now ask Riley to present the acknowledgement of country. Thanks, Riley.
Yama, good morning. Gulbi Naya Nine Nay. Welcome all. My name is Riley Johnson and I am a proud Gomeroi from Moree, Northwest New South Wales. Before I begin, in recognition of ancient practices that seeking and receiving permission to being on country that is not my own, I'd like to formally acknowledge the traditional custodians of all the different nations joining together for this meeting. I'd like to pay my respects to elders both past and present and recognise the younger generation, for we are the future leaders of tomorrow and the hope for Aboriginal Australia. Governinda, thank you.
Thank you, Riley. Fantastic, wonderful. And it's an absolute pleasure to have you here today. Thank you. All right, I would like to now ask Sam to turn her camera on. And I'd like to introduce everybody to Sam Martin-Williams. Sam, can you hear me?
I can, Gary. I think I just need you to start my video because the host has stopped it. So
try that now, Sam.
I will. You can hear me and hopefully now you can see me.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sam.
Fantastic.
Hello, Sam. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining us today. Everybody, I'd like to introduce you to Sam Martin-Williams. Sam is a Hunter-based non-executive director and regional transformation champion. Newcastle Airport Limited, the University of Newcastle and Newcastle Permanent businesses within her current portfolio. These organisations are at the heart of the region which drive growth, jobs and prosperity. Their performance impacts national competitive advantage. Sam has extensive experience in industries including supply chain, resources, education, health, aviation and financial services, which represent a number of the Hunters region's smart specialisation sectors. These businesses create the jobs of the future. She's a passionate advocate for regional innovation and entrepreneurship and workforce skills. A former CEO, company secretary and business advisor, Sam has tertiary qualifications in business, industrial relations and commercial law. She holds executive qualifications from Harvard Business School and INSEAD. Sam is a fellow of the Australian Institute of Company Directors, a contract lecturer at the University of Newcastle and a former Telstra Businesswoman of the Year winner. Sam represented the region in the top 35 Australian business women's leaders at the Future of Work delegation to Silicon Valley in 2019 and co-hosted the 2021 Women's Leaders Tour to the Hunter region focused on the experience of work. We are very, very lucky to have Sam with us today, and I would like to now hand over to Sam Martin-Williams. Thank you, Sam.
Thanks, Gary. And thanks so much, Riley, for that introduction. I'd also like to acknowledge the traditional custodians on the land in which we meet. For me, it's the Awabakal and Worimi people, and acknowledge elders past, present and future. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. It's a real privilege, and it's probably going to be the highlight of my week joining you guys. So thank you very much for having me. My name is Sam Martin-Williams, as Gary has said, and today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my journey, my career journey, and then talk a little bit about 4 or 5 sort of key takeouts that really sort of, mean something to me and have really made a difference within my career and with my choices around future workforce planning, and some of the things also that I'm seeing in the workforce both now and into the future. So I'm going to do that, if you don't mind, by sharing some slides with you, and then towards the end we're going to have an opportunity for some Q&A. So maybe if you want to take down a couple of notes as you go, or pop something into your phone about some questions or some keywords, please feel free to do that. There will be an opportunity also at the end for some questions. So if you just bear with me, I'm going to share my screen. One moment. We'll see if this works. There we go. All right, I think that's working for everyone. It's working for me. So
Thanks, Liam. Yes, it's working. Yep.
Great. Look, I wanted to share this photo with you. When Gary approached me about talking with you today, I thought I'll just go back and see what things I was doing and what my class was like when I was in Year 9 and Year 10. And this is my class of Year 10 when I was at Maitland Girls High School. Maitland Girls High School, I was the last all-girls year, and it was a public school. This was my class, and a number of those people, I still am in touch with. I don't know if you can pick which one I am, but I thought what I'd do is show you this. Besides the fact that I've got a lot of hair, and in that Year 10 photo I look a bit sleepy, that was me in Year 9 and Year 10. And I went to East Maitland Primary School before I went to Maitland Girls High School. And then after I went to Maitland Girls High School, I went to the University of Newcastle. And I'll tell you a little bit about that journey in a moment. At that stage at school, I had a diary, and I was writing in this diary, and I found the diary, and the diary said this. It said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And the diary said, I wrote down I wanted to be a hairdresser or a secretary, which gave me cause to have a bit of a giggle with my dad when we actually found this diary a couple of weeks ago, because I'm not really good at doing hair and I'm hopeless at admin. But back when I was in Year 9 or Year 10, that's what I thought I'd wanted to do. I remember being in Year 9 and Year 10 and getting heaps of different advice from my family, advice from my friends, advice from my career advisors, advice from my circle about what subjects to pick, what to do, what do you love, what don't you love so much, what do you find fulfilling, what makes you happy, what are you good at? And there was a fair bit of pressure. I remember at the time feeling like I've got to make, the right choice. I've got to get this right, because you only get one opportunity at it. And what I've come to realize is that you don't get one opportunity at it. Your career is not linear. Your career can be sidewards, upwards, downwards, off to another sector and back to that sector. So the pressure that you put on yourself to make the right choices can often be channeled into something that is far more productive, much more productive personal dialogue. So worrying about what choices you're going to make is natural, but there are so many different roads to success that it's important to surround yourself with people that give you good insights, good guidance, good advice, and you can take all of that input in and make some really good decisions for yourself as you go along that journey, and those decisions may change. I just wanted to tell you a little bit about the most recent findings about workforce, and Google is the absolute best example, I think, of this. So what Google did, they did a study and had a look at all of their hiring data, who they hired, what were their qualifications, where did they come from, what were they good at, and Google were hiring mainly on STEM-based criteria, science, technology, engineering, arts and maths, to set up their future workforce. And over that 10-year period of sourcing talent into the workplace that was really focused on STEM, they did something that was an interesting study to have a look at some of the key characteristics of those employees and what came out of that. And let me just tell you a little bit about what they found. So they called it Project Aristotle, and they reviewed all of the hiring data And what they found was soft skills and character strengths, such as those that are there on the screen: empathy, intelligence, kindness, mindfulness, adaptability, optimism, self-motivation, grit, resilience. They are the key workforce factors of success, not the hard-coded subjects that you choose or not choose. They are important, but the soft skills and character strengths are crucial for workforce success. Let me tell you a bit about this study because it's super interesting. So they decided in 2013 to actually have a look at how they hire and crunch some numbers about hiring, firing, and promotion. So who also that they're promoting throughout Google. And it really shocked, it says in the Washington Post, it says it shocked everyone that they concluded that among the most important qualities for Google's top employees, these STEM expertise, of course, was important, but it actually came dead last. It came last behind these soft skills and character strengths. So things like being a critical thinker and a problem solver, things like your ability to make connections and maintain really quality relationships, they were the most important factors in workforce success. In the project, one of the other really interesting observations was that the best teams at Google, they talk about the absolute best high-performing teams, they exhibited soft skills such as equality, generosity, curiosity, and also empathy and emotional intelligence when it comes to working with teammates. So topping the list, they said one of the most important characteristics to have in terms of future workforce success was emotional safety. No bullying. To succeed, each and every team member must feel confident speaking up and making mistakes. They must know that they are heard. So the point of me sharing this with you, it was an amazing study that actually demonstrated it was all of the soft skills and character strengths that actually can differentiate you in the workforce and prepare you for a future career. So please don't let that be lost on you today. It's something that I'm going to draw on now with my own personal experiences. So how do you go about developing these soft skills? How do you go about, working in teams and being able to develop for yourself a really strong character strength profile? One of the things that I've done throughout my career that I hope may be beneficial for you is building networks. So very early on, I became involved in things to do with school and outside school. And a number of those things I wasn't really good at, but I leaned into them with an open mind, and often I was uncomfortable, but that discomfort led to a lot of growth. But it does take you putting yourself out there a little bit to do different things and join and build different communities. But it's very important that you start to build your networks in and outside school. Now, for me, that was sport. It was volunteering. I volunteered to do some work at not-for-profit charities just now and again, whilst I had some time at school. I joined the gym. That in itself was a community. And it was an opportunity also where school or where TAFE provided access. It was getting involved in community items. So rather than dismissing that and thinking that, no, that's not for me, actually opening up your mind and thinking, I might give this a go and see if I can't build a network and build a really quality relationship where I can get some guidance, some insight, some advice from new people and build a community. So that's really important for you to think about, how can I build a community? And it's not just a one-off thought. You think about that throughout your entire career, because community is very important in terms of your own ability to problem solve, to talk through issues and to make some good decisions. The other thing about building community is building networks and building communities. It really helps with your profile building. You get noticed, hopefully for all the right reasons, and in getting noticed, it really does help advance your career. It can help strengthen your business connections, and often those networks that you build now, they start to really pay off into the future. So there mightn't be an immediate payoff, but there's a payoff down the track, particularly if you've maintained and built a relationship with those people over time. So build networks, build communities. When I reflect on my career to date, I think about the key area of positive personal dialogue. So what does that mean? For me, it's been about recognising where I've had negative thoughts, or I've been thinking, I can't do this, I haven't got the ability to do this, or I'm not confident enough to do this, and I'm talking myself out of things. So it's about catching yourself if you're promoting negative self-talk, because that's going to limit your ability to lean into new and exciting things to do. So whether you tell yourself in a work sense, you're not going to get promoted, or you're constantly thinking, oh, people think that I'm a bit weird, this negative self-talk, it actually affects how you feel and how you behave, right? So in fact, these conversations that you have with yourself can often be self-fulfilling. So you really do have to try to catch yourself if you're saying, no, that's not for me, or no, I'm not going to do that. For me, I want to share with you something that was really recent, where I found myself doubting my ability and going through a lot of negative self-talk. But my ability to catch myself and then lean into something that was not so comfortable actually bore a lot of fruit. So for me, only recently in 2019, I was asked to go to Silicon Valley with a group of 30 other Australian businesswomen leaders. Amazing, great opportunity. I was the only person based in regional New South Wales. Everyone else was from Sydney or Melbourne. And I remember looking at the list of the other Australian business leaders, and I thought, I have got nothing to offer. These people are incredibly successful, really capable. In fact, some real role models and inspirations to me. And I was doubting my abilities to actually go on a tour, on a delegation with this group. I thought, I don't know what I'm going to add to this group. And I had to catch myself, because I wouldn't have been on that group unless I had something to add. And that might be something different to what everyone else on that group has to add. But I went on that tour. It was a terribly successful tour for me. I built some great relationships, and we're going to draw on that right at the end about one of my mentors now, Naomi Simpson, who I would have never met if I hadn't have leaned in, went on that delegation, made really good connections, and stopped the negative self-talk and promoted some positive personal dialogue. So there's some really good endings to these stories. Sometimes they're a bit uncomfortable, but it's a really important concept for you to grasp in terms of underpinning your ability to develop your character strengths. Positive personal dialogue. The third thing that I wanted to share with you today is the concept of living a whole life and saying yes to things that are new and challenging. Because saying yes opens up new challenges and new opportunities. If you wait until you feel ready for an opportunity, chances are it'll pass you by. So if you look at a job and you think, I need to meet all of these criteria, but I don't meet one of them, you know what? Don't focus on the one that you don't meet. Lean into the ones that you do, and say yes, and be positive about the ones that you do meet. Richard Branson's got a really interesting quote about this. He says, if somebody offers you an amazing opportunity, but you're not sure you can do it, say yes, then learn how to do it later. Saying yes also invites collaboration. So unlike no, which shuts down conversations, saying yes opens up positive possibilities and invites you to build and foster collaborations and partnership. So it leads to some further discussion. And saying yes is usually a lot more fun than saying no. one of the things that I reflect on is when I first joined the board of the Newcastle Permanent Building Society. I was the only woman on that board, and I was the only woman, I was the only person certainly under the age of 40. And if I had said no to that opportunity, then I wouldn't have had the opportunities that I've had today to make an amazing non-executive portfolio out of things like the Newcastle Permanent, which is a great brand here in the Hunter and beyond. So, you know, it often is about you taking up those opportunities, saying yes, and then working out how to actually learn the skills that you need in a very open-minded growth mindset way after you actually say yes. So can you think of someone that has a really good personal brand? Now, when I mean personal brand, I mean things like character strengths. They are reliable, they're genuine, they're respectful, they're empathetic. And this is what personal brand is. And it's a long-term build, your personal brand. You'll be building your personal brand now. You would have already started to build your personal brand now. And personal brand building is about consistency, and it's also about actions. Words, yes, but actions more importantly. And with this, you never know who you're going to meet now that you will circle back to and meet into the future. That might be, in fact, someone that is going to hire you or promote you or advocate for you in a job. And this happened to me quite a lot throughout my career, particularly being associated with working in gyms. I would be doing classes or working in the gym, and I would meet people and I had no idea who they were other than they were someone that come into the gym, they were dressed in their sports gear, and I had no idea about what they did in their professional life. But their experience of me in that context often then was beneficial to me as I built my career, because my personal brand, they got to know me and my personal brand out of context. And when it was an opportunity for me to either put my CV forward or for me to work with them or for me to draw on them as a mentor or as a referee, they had remembered what my personal brand was many, many years ago, and they were able to advocate for me with a real positive lens. So keep in mind that an authentic personal brand happens over a long period of time. It's a consistent build, and it's something that's based on your character strength. So it's not based on your aesthetics. It's not based on how you look. It's about your character strength and your soft skills. So when was the last time you acted with kindness without any expectation of receiving anything in return? So when did you last act with kindness without any expectation that you'd get anything in return? And if you can think of something, that is amazing, because this is what generosity of spirit is. It's qualities like these that underpin really great leaders. Great leadership always has this generosity of spirit. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to give gifts or you have to give money or it's of any monetary value to be called generous. As a leader, using generosity is different compared to the usual meaning that it conveys to other people. So generosity in a leader, and many of you would already have experienced this maybe in some of the leaders that you have worked with either in a school environment or in a community environment. But generosity in a leader is giving chances, giving the benefit of the doubt, and giving each member of your team a reason to work for you. It's not putting the blame on any teammates when a mishap happens. It's about leaning in, problem solving it together, and working on a strategy as a team going forward. And generosity of spirit can also be outside, say, a work environment as you lean into your future work environment. It can be about giving some time to not-for-profits and paying it forward in the community that will also help build your network. So have a think about opportunities that might exist also outside that school environment for you to demonstrate your generosity of spirit. So they're just a couple of concepts that when I think about my career to date and I think about preparing for a future workforce, that's the things that employers and businesses and entrepreneurs and small business owners are looking for. It's underpinned by character strengths. It's underpinned by soft skills. So what are your character strengths? Some of you might already know that, what your character strengths are. You might have already done that somehow throughout school, throughout your interactions with different clubs or societies, or you might have just done that yourself online, because there's lots and lots of tools that you can use, many, many tools. And the one I'm going to talk about today is just the one that I've used most recently, and my son has used at school. So when I was at school, I had no idea what my character strengths were. And the first time I ever did a character strength assessment, it was in my first job in recruitment. And I was 26, it was my first full-time job. And I remember as part of my professional development, we talked about character strengths. And it gave me cause to think, why have I waited until I'm 26 to actually do these character strengths? Funnily enough, my son is in year 5 and he knows what his character strengths are. They've made a shirt at school and it's got love, honesty and care, I think are Taj's top 3. And he knows what things he needs to work on. And he knows if you overplay those strengths, what does that look like? Or if you get stressed, what do those strengths look like? And how can they impact others? Now, he's 11 and I didn't do anything like this until I was 26. So it's pretty insightful. And I think it's worthwhile you knowing what your character strengths are, not what you think they are, or not what others tell you they are, but what those character strengths are. Now, this link, that's just one of the character strengths that character strength surveys that you can use if you haven't already done it. And I'm sure school and your contacts and networks at school and at TAFE would also be able to give you some great recommendations. This is just one that I have used and my son uses. It's called the VIA survey. But it gives you a really good insight into the positive parts of your personality. It's very engaging. It gives you a really authentic view of what your character strengths are. And it helps with your strengths profile. So it's really strengths-based. It's not focusing on areas of improvement per se. It's really strengths-focused. And it gives you an opportunity to understand what are your strengths, how do you play to your strengths, what do your strengths look like to others? If a strength is overplayed, what does that look like? And it gives you some good insight into your own character strengths. So some of the key takeouts is to understand your character strengths. That's a terrific start. And that's not once you do throughout your life. I often do that as I go because people grow, people change, people are impacted by experiences, and it's something that you need to do iteratively and over time. Not every year, but every few years, it's very handy. And it's not something you need to telegraph to others. It's something that you can do for yourself, and it can be a personal development tool. Soft skills are crucial for the future workforce. Absolutely crucial. The Google project Aristotle goes into great detail about these soft skills. Careers aren't linear. They don't just go straight up and you keep on moving up a hierarchy. Careers go to the side. They move outside sector. They move over different countries, they can have gaps in them. Careers aren't linear, and that's something that probably I've learned much more over this last part of my life than I did when I was in year 10 at Maitland Girls High School. Build networks, build communities. It's super important for you to have a wide network that helps you develop your ideas, open up different discussions so you can get advice, insights and guidance. Positive personal dialogue. Catch yourself when you're having negative dialogue and start to think about how that dialogue can change so that you are starting to lean into opportunities, even if they're uncomfortable, but you can lean into opportunities positively and give things a go, which leads me to live a whole life and say yes to new and exciting challenges. You don't know where that's going to lead you. And you need to think about that in terms of not only in school, but outside school and in the community. Build an authentic personal brand based on your character strengths, and be generous. Be generous to people, be generous to your community, and actually pay it forward and give back. All those qualities underpin really strong character strengths. Now, remember I told you about that negative self-dialogue that I had in and around the trip to Silicon Valley in 2019, when I had a look at the list of all of those amazing women and I thought, I've got no idea what I've got to offer. And I went on that tour, and it was an amazing tour. I've got a network of people now that I wouldn't have ever really, I would have spent a lifetime building a network. And they were very generous. It was a very safe environment. They shared a lot of stories, not only positive stories, but were open and honest about things that hadn't worked for them throughout their career. And it led me to actually lead the 2021 delegation, which you'll see the front page of this report and you're able to get a copy of if you haven't already. I was asked then to host the Valley to Valley Women Leaders Delegation in 2021. So going from someone who was invited in 2019 and not sure should I have been there, I was actually asked whether I could host this particular delegation. And there's some really interesting insights in there about some local businesses like Newcastle Airport, University of Newcastle, maybe the Port of Newcastle. There's some great things in there about leadership, about transformation, and about women and workforce. So I'd love you to be able to have a look at that and see if you can take anything out of that. I co-hosted this particular tour in 2021 with Naomi Simpson, who I would have never had an opportunity to meet Naomi Simpson had I not leaned in 2019 and got over my negative dialogue. She's amazing now. I can reach out to her and she can provide me with some good insights and advice. She challenges me. She just doesn't give me a yes straight away. She makes me think about things, but she's now become a really important coach and mentor of mine. But that wouldn't have happened unless I had have leant in 2019, got over my personal negative dialogue and actually said yes to some challenging and new things. So, you know, it's a great relationship that we have now, someone that I can draw on as part of this journey, and she is a mentor and a coach, an ongoing mentor and coach to me. So thank you so much for allowing me to take you through those particular key takeouts and a little bit about myself. I think we're going to open up for some questions in just a moment, and really happy to answer either things that were in that presentation or things that are on your mind.
Thank you, Sam. That was wonderful. If you just can stop sharing your screen for a moment.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much. Okay, Sam, just a couple of takeouts for me. I thought that was just absolutely wonderful. I loved the idea of lean in. I think that's just a great concept. Really quite simple on the surface, but it's a nice little reminder to challenge the self-doubt and that imposter syndrome that we all have at some point. So I really loved that. So thank you for that. Just saying yes when those opportunities come along. You forget about the self-doubt and just take those opportunities. So I think that's wonderful. Well done. I've got a couple of questions here for you, Sam. So you'd actually just touched on mentoring just then, which was interesting because I have a question here. Have you had a mentor during your career? And what has been the value proposition around having a mentor? What benefit has that brought to you throughout your career? And I suppose, do you advocate for these young future leaders to source a mentor in their particular chosen field?
Look, I have had many mentors and continue to have many mentors and coaches, some sort of more informal, some formal. some with really a structured program, some not with a structured program. But one thing that's the same throughout each of them is I've gone to them genuinely with an open mind or a problem to solve, and I've been open to their insights, guidance, and advice. Because sometimes mentors will actually, maybe not sometimes, maybe all the time, mentors will challenge you to think a bit differently. So you might arrive at the same outcome, but you'll go through your thinking process and be challenged differently by good mentors and coaches. So I continue to have mentors and coaches, not one, but many, and they are formal and informal. I mentor myself and often get so much from that experience. It's not just the experience of the mentee. I get lots of experience doing the mentoring. So it's all multidimensional, and it's absolutely, I think, essential to have that as part of your ongoing network. And it can be, there's no right or wrong. There's no one shape or there's no one form. It's what works for you, but have a clear agenda about engaging with someone, and be really open for their insights, guidance, and their advice.
Great. Thanks, Sam. That's fantastic advice. We're getting some great questions, Sam, so I hope you've got your thinking cap on. We have a question here. Any advice for students who don't know what to do in the future or what path they should take? So they're currently in school. They're obviously getting the question that you had, that you want to be a hairdressing secretary. That is, what do you want to do when you leave school? Have no idea. What advice can you give that person?
So I would commit to a plan to explore that question. So if you sat down and you thought, okay, who can I ask in my network, or who can I ask outside my network that could give me some information that could help me make a decision? So it's almost like an exploratory plan. And you might come up with, you might only have 3 people, but you should, I think you, in my view, and I'd benefit from this. I've done this before in my career as I've, thought about changing jobs, or as I've thought about taking a promotion or not taking a promotion. I've actually had a plan about consultation. Who am I going to talk to before I actually make a decision? I need some optionality. I need some options, and who am I going to talk to that can give me some options? So you might even reach out to people through social media. I use LinkedIn, of course, because it's much more workforce focused. But if there's someone that I think, I'm just going to fly a kite here and I'm going to send an email to, a particular person that I admire in a business sense, I'll try to do that via LinkedIn. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Don't think that every time you reach out, someone will actually reach back. But 9 times out of 10, people are really generous and they'll help you with guidance and insights. But I'd commit to a plan. And if you think, how do I go about the plan? First, start with, who am I going to consult? Who's in my network at school that I can consult? And don't consult just the same people that you usually ask. Challenge yourself to put at least one person on that consultation plan that is a little bit different. And make sure you're also on your consultation plan. Maybe put in people that are important to you. Family, friends, people that you might be associated with out of school, with whether it's sport or whether it's in the community. If you think broadly about your network and you have a bit of a commitment to consultation, I think that helps with your decision making.
Great, thanks, Sam. I think I know the answer you're going to have for this one. Do you have to go to uni in order to succeed in your business life?
Well, when I had that really high hair in year 9 and year 10, absolutely I thought that. Mind you, I was the first person in my family to go to university. So there was no expectation that I went to university, certainly from my mum or dad. And back then I thought that that's what you did. You went to high school and then you went to university. And I've got no regrets that I did that. But what I've found out, particularly since I've worked at TAFE and since I've worked at the university post my education, is that there's so many different ways either throughout your work career. So there is no one way. And I think that university has absolutely got benefits, and universities aren't the same environment that they used to be. You know, you just don't go to unis to be an accountant, a lawyer, or an engineer. There's lots of opportunity outside that, and universities provide opportunities not only within the university community, but through their affiliated community. But TAFE, my experience at TAFE and with other vocational education and training providers was amazing. And TAFEs aren't the same, or vocational education providers, they aren't the same as they used to be anymore, where you just go to TAFE to, you know, maybe do an apprenticeship. So there are so many opportunities, and even a combined opportunity. You can do TAFE and university, either concurrently or separately, or you can choose neither, and you might go down an entrepreneurial path, you might go down a small business path. But to help you make those decisions, that consultation and guidance you can get from others does allow you to make some good choices. But is university compulsory? No. Was university great for me? It was fantastic. Was TAFE great for me? Fantastic, because I've got qualifications in both TAFE and university. And I'd advocate for both at different times in your life.
Great, thank you, Sam. Here's a really interesting question, Sam. Have you ever dealt with workplace discrimination? And if so, how did you deal with it?
I think everyone, it's on everyone's mind, workplace discrimination, and it's become much more overt, I think, with recent occurrences of workplace discrimination. I think that work needs to be a safe environment. So in order for it to be a safe environment, you need to be able to share in a very safe and confidential way the way things are, the way you're feeling, the way you're seeing things, and also to understand what the options are. So I think that if anyone is experiencing that, they need to be able to share that either with someone in the workplace that they can do that confidently with, or someone outside the workplace, because the workplace should be set up for that safe environment. And there will be policies and procedures that the organisation needs to adhere to as part of its obligation to you as an employee or as a person connected with the business. So the first thing is, I think, to make sure that you share your experience with someone in the workplace that could help you, or someone outside the workplace that could give you some really good advice. And then you would have a look at what is available within the workplace by way of policies and procedures that give you some comfort about how this is going to be dealt with. So you don't sit on it. If you are feeling it, experiencing it, seeing it, you need to, in a safe environment, share it with someone that can provide you with some guidance, and the organisation then will, by law, have to have a process that you go through. Now, that's where I'd start. And often these things aren't black and white, but you do need to share it and make sure that there's some light shed on it so that it can be dealt with positively.
Yeah, great, Sam. It's a really great question, isn't it? This might be the last one, Sam, just considering our time. This is an interesting one, and particularly you being a mum, you might relate to this as well, I'd imagine. So I think you're putting both hats on for this one. What if you want to do something your parents don't want you to do? So I think the question is saying, what if I want to do a career or a study pathway that my parents aren't supporting me? What advice could you give that person, please? It's a good question.
It's a great question. I wonder whether I know the person who's asked this question or not, but because I know a couple that were joining us today. But look, it's a great question, because often parents, as much as they can be pains, they can actually be terrific people to support and guide your career. And they can see things a little bit differently because they've got a different lens on, and they've gone through life and they're at a different stage. So I don't think you can ignore your parents. I think as part of who you speak to, and as part of being able to justify what your decision is, you've got to take into account what your parents want you to do. But you've got to be able to demonstrate, I think, to your parents that you've done your own due diligence, you've spoken to other people, and this is why you want to do this. You can't just go back to mum and dad or to whoever your carer is and say, okay, well, you wanted me to be a hairdresser, I want to be a secretary, and I don't want to talk about it anymore. You've got to be able to justify your decision making, and you've got to be able to talk to them about why you took on board their feedback, but why it is you're actually going down a different pathway, and come up together with them, ideally with a plan. And that plan might be you're going to start doing hairdressing, and then partway through, you're going to evaluate whether that's for you, and you'll take into consideration whether you're going to change and be a secretary. So come up with a plan, get them to buy into the plan, get them to understand that you've done a lot of good research about why, and then tell them that you'll be open-minded enough to actually come back to potentially thinking about that after you give your plan A go. I'm trying to think, if my son came to me and said, Mum, this is what I want to do, and I said, this is what I want you to do, that's pretty much what I'd like to happen, even if he lands on something that that isn't what I wanted him to do. But ultimately he was able to justify why. He was able to be passionate about his choices, and he thought long and hard enough about this to present something to me that I could also demonstrate I had a bit of a growth mindset about as well.
Great answer. Thank you, Sam. We've got a few other questions, Sam, but what we might do is take those on notice. I'll send those questions to you, and if you could just respond to those, and I'll share that with everybody in today's. Sam, can you just please make me host? If you just go into participants and just make me host, please, so I can share my screen and video.
Done?
Done. Great. Thank you, Sam. That was absolutely wonderful, Sam. Thank you. Really fantastic. At this point, I would like everybody to take their mobile phone out, please. I'll just give everybody a minute to get them out. And I would like everybody just for 30 seconds just to reflect on some of the key messages from Sam. So don't rush into this. So just sit quietly and just think about some of the key messages that Sam brought today and what has really resonated with you. And what I'd like you to do is in your search engine, I'd like you to go to menti.com. That's MENTI. You can see at the top of my screen.com. And I'd like you to enter that code once you get into the website, which is 73426200. And I'd like you to just one word that comes to mind that describes some of Sam's messages today. What resonated with you? How do you feel? What was important? And I would like you to type that into the search engine, the bar.
Gee, this is neat, Gary.
You like that, Sam?
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Keep them coming, guys. Keep them coming. Fantastic. Strategic, educated, motivating, influential, eye-opening. Positive self-talk. Riley, you're inspiring, Riley. Nice. We'll give it a few more. We'll give it another 30 seconds. Just think about a word or a phrase that comes to mind in regards to some of the messaging today. Fantastic.
Hmm.
That is great, guys. That's absolutely wonderful.
It's amazing. Thank you so much, everyone.
I'm just going to stop sharing my screen. Sam, look, obviously on behalf of everybody today, I would just like to thank you for giving up your time to come and speak to these young future leaders. It's been a fantastic session, and I really am very grateful for you agreeing to participate in this. Just for everybody that's in the session today, I can confirm the recording will be sent to the careers advisors this week. So if you'd like a copy of the recording, please speak to your careers advisor. I'm also going to ask all the participants today to participate in a survey. I'll be sending everybody a QR code this afternoon via your email. It's only a couple of questions in there. It's just so we can gather some feedback from you in regards to the session. So we're always improving on the products that we're delivering to you guys. And also the experience of work report that Sam shared with us. Again, I'll send that to the careers advisors this week. So if some of you haven't received a copy of it, all your careers advisors will have a copy this week. I am going to now stop the recording, and I would like to thank everybody for taking the time to join us today, and have a wonderful day. Thank you very much. And thank you, Sam.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.